It's clearly based off of his fighting style, and if you can't use Gotoh, then really Hisoka just looks like a magician. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're talking about why Hisoka versus Gotoh is underrated. Stay steady in pursuit of your dreams and goals. You're born to win, you're made for greatness, and I definitely believe in you guys. Keep up the great work each and every day. So Hisoka versus Gotoh is a battle between two powerful characters in the story of Hunter x Hunter. Today we're going to analyze every single element of the fight to explain overall why Hisoka versus Gotoh is underrated. Also, this analysis video is a new series on the channel where essentially I'm doing an analysis in a very similar format to how I usually do my live streams. So let me know in the comments if you guys like this style of analysis video. If you guys like this style, then I can make more of them. So there's a lot of different things that I wanted to cover today when talking about this fight. The first thing I wanted to talk about with this fight is Hisoka's introduction, what he calls himself in the introduction of this fight. Hisoka refers to himself as a traveling magician, and this is very interesting because this is actually the same nickname that he has in Heaven's Arena. So in Heaven's Arena, if you look in the right hand panel, you see that Hisoka is referred to as Hisoka the Magician, and it makes me wonder, like, did Hisoka get this nickname from his fights in Heaven's Arena? Like, did he just start calling himself Hisoka the Magician because the announcers gave him that nickname? Or did Hisoka himself come up with the nickname and then the announcers started saying it second? Let me know what you guys think, what the origin of this nickname was. It's clearly based off of his fighting style because as he's fighting, especially if you're not a Nen user, if you're just looking at him fight and you can't actually see Nen, it truthfully looks like he's just doing magic tricks because he's making playing cards fly around, he's like making his limbs like reappear, he's doing crazy stuff using his Nen ability, and if you can't use Gotoh, then really Hisoka just looks like a magician. So the nickname is based off of his fighting style, but what do you think the origin of the nickname was? Do you think Hisoka created it himself before he started fighting in Heaven's Arena? Or do you think the nickname came from the announcers and the fans in Heaven's Arena just calling Hisoka that throughout his fights, and then Hisoka liked the nickname so he starts calling himself that too? Hisoka has a really long history with Heaven's Arena. He defeated Castro 2 years ago, so he's been there for quite a while. Something that makes Hisoka fights very unique is pretty much every time he does one attack, he's actually doing like 5 attacks at once. So for example, when this fight starts, the first thing Hisoka does is he throws a bunch of playing cards at the junior butlers and at Gotoh. So this one attack, it actually has like 3 different levels to it, all in one attack. Depending on the strength level of his opponent, the second and third levels of this attack don't even come into play. If the opponent's weak enough, just the first level of the attack will just straight up defeat them. With this attack here, he throws the cards, and if the butlers were weak enough, these cards would just one-shot them all. This alone would be enough to kill all the junior butlers that he's fighting and kill Gotoh all in one shot if they were weak enough to be defeated by this attack. But what ends up happening is Gotoh's there and he reflects all the cards with his Hatsu ability, just firing coins. But that was just level 1 of the attack. Hisoka actually reveals here that when he threw the cards, he actually scattered Bungee Gum around at the same time, and this is actually something he uses to save himself from an attack from Gotoh later in the fight, and this leads to Hisoka winning the fight as well. But it's just really interesting because you think he's just throwing cards, but he's actually not just throwing cards. He's throwing cards that could one-shot them, but he's also scattering Bungee Gum around, and then he uses that Bungee Gum to save himself from a tough situation later in the fight. This is one of the things that makes Hisoka fights really interesting to read, is because you read it the first time and you think he's just doing simple attacks, then you see he's actually done like multiple attacks for every one attack you thought he was doing. So when you read the fight a second time, you're now paying attention to all the different things he was doing at first, and it just becomes more and more interesting the more you read them. This is also something that makes the Hisoka versus Chrollo battle very interesting. So after Hisoka performs this feat of laying out like 15 different attacks with just one attack, he then starts revealing what his Hatsu ability does to Gotoh. Some people think that there's actually a built-in Nen condition to Hisoka's bungee gum, that it actually gets stronger by him saying this to people. But it should be noted that like that's never actually stated in the manga itself. I mean, it's a possibility, but it's not like word for word written anywhere. That's actually something from Jujutsu Kaisen. That's not a thing that specifically applies to Hisoka 100% for certain. That's more like a theory people have. There's a couple other statements in the series that give some implications as to why Hisoka's doing this, but there's no like straightforward actual answer for sure. So for one, Gotoh actually asks him, he's like, bro, why are you doing that? Why are you telling me what your Hatsu ability is? Like, that's a big disadvantage in a Nen battle, right? If you're fighting somebody, you typically don't know what their ability is, so if you just tell them for no reason, that's a big disadvantage to you. But Hisoka, like, his answer is like, honestly, I don't care. Like, compared to me, you're so weak, it will just not make a difference. And that's his answer to Gotoh. But then it's like, he also says this to Razor too. Here's a couple possible answers, right? One option is Hisoka's just actually a crazy person, so he tells people his ability because he doesn't care. Like, he's so confident in his abilities, he thinks he can win even with a disadvantage. That's one option. Another option is that Hisoka believes that Bungee Gum does not lose any effectiveness even if people know what it does, because he's so creative with it. Yeah, that's something that's actually stated in Heaven's Arena. It's stated right here. There's a statement that when Hisoka reveals what his ability does, they don't actually lose their usefulness, and it's for a bunch of different reasons, but to simplify it, it's because Hisoka's so tricky with his abilities that even if you know what he can do, he can still trick you with it because Bungee Gum's just very versatile. And the third possibility is maybe Hisoka's doing this to increase the challenge, because there's a line of dialogue he has when he's fighting Crollo where he states one of his favorite things is seeing people have like the perfect plan to defeat Hisoka, but then he just beats them anyway. That's one of Hisoka's favorite things to do. Also, another thing that should be noted is this isn't Hisoka's only ability. He actually has two abilities. One is Bungee Gum, and then the other is Texture Surprise, which basically he's using his aura to disguise things, make things look different, and he usually doesn't tell people how Texture Surprise works, so like that's something to consider as well. Maybe him just telling them only about Bungee Gum tricks them up even more because they'll think, oh, all he can do is use Bungee Gum, but he actually has a second ability, which is Texture Surprise, and he can use that to trick people. As Hisoka's fighting Gotoh, he actually uses Bungee Gum as like a shield, and here's something that's pretty cool. If you look closely at Hisoka's feet when he's doing this, he actually reinforces his feet with Bungee Gum as well. It's actually just really interesting. He has complete mastery over Bungee Gum. He can use it in so many different ways. Gotoh made the bullets spin, so when Hisoka caught them with his Bungee Gum shield, it like twisted his arms together, but then Hisoka just disengages the Bungee Gum from his feet and then he starts going flying. And he goes flying because he had attached Bungee Gum to the trees when he first threw cards at the very beginning of the battle. This is actually something he does in the Hisoka versus Crollo fight too. Like at the very start of the fight, he attaches Bungee Gum to the roof, so that way he's able to dodge attacks last second. Something that's really interesting about this ability, when Hisoka's using his Bungee Gum to travel to different places, he's extremely fast. Like, he's so fast that Gotoh can't actually follow him with his eyes. So this tells you that he's actually faster than the cards that he was throwing in the beginning, because Gotoh is able to react to the cards pretty easily. It seems like he's faster than the coins too, because Gotoh has a line of dialogue where he's like, even if you flung back more than 22 coins at me, I'd be able to reflect them all. It's faster than the speed in which Hisoka can reflect coins back at Gotoh. If you're fighting Hisoka and you're somebody who has a fighting style similar to Gotoh, where like you're augmenting something with Nen and you use it as a projectile weapon, Hisoka can send them flying back at you. You could make an argument that there's certain abilities that Bungee Gum just kind of hard counters. Then while Gotoh is in the middle of trying to counter all of the coins that Hisoka flung back at him, Hisoka just one-shots him. This is actually a really interesting fight. Hisoka does a lot of different tricks throughout this battle, and it becomes pretty obvious why he's called Hisoka the Magician. Even to people who are actual Nen users, it seems like they're fighting a magician, because he's just doing so many tricks. His fighting intelligence is just crazy. Like, the way he's able to think of so many plans on the fly is just wild. You know, Morel has a line of dialogue where he says he's never seen anyone with a more versatile Hatsu ability than his own, because Morel can kind of just make anything out of smoke, so it fits pretty much any situation. But I wonder what he would say about, like, Hisoka's ability. I think Hisoka's ability is kind of close. I actually do think Morel's Hatsu ability is more versatile than Bungee Gum, because, like, Morel is almost like a Green Lantern character, bro. Like, he can just kind of make anything with the smoke. I've always wondered, like, why doesn't Morel just make armor with the smoke? Like, because when he made other things with the smoke, a lot of it was unbreakable, right? Like, he made an unbreakable rope, and then his smoky jail, like, couldn't be broken by Yuppie. So I've always wondered, why doesn't Morel just make, like, some smoke armor and just be, like, top one in the verse with defense? I don't know why he doesn't do that, but I don't know, maybe there's some kind of condition limiting him from doing that, because when he makes, like, smoke clones, they're actually kind of weak, but when he makes, like, smoke objects like the rope or the smoky jail, they're both super strong. So, but yeah, that's everything I wanted to say about Hisoka versus Gotoh. I just think it's a very underrated fight. Let me know what you guys think about this style of video. Like I said, this is usually just how I would do a live stream, but I thought to myself, instead of doing this as a live stream, would people like this if I just did it as a video and just, like, edited it slightly? Let me know if you do enjoy this style of video or not. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate the views, appreciate the comments. Like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.